Welcome to our overview of the 2026-2027 FAFSA, and I'm going to walk you through how to fill out the FAFSA step by step. As we get started here, though, you can see on our screen that this is the PDF form of the FAFSA. And the PDF form of the FAFSA is the last resort that you should be using. You'll get to do this online at Studentaid.gov, and honestly, it will take you half the time it's going to take to make this video to do the FAFSA on Studentaid.gov. The reason is Studentaid.gov allows you to autofill a ton of stuff. It uses your FSA ID and just makes filling out the FAFSA that easy. If you're watching this video and you have never filled out a FAFSA before, honestly, it's going to take you about 15 to 20 minutes. Don't be scared of it. It is the easiest thing ever. So as we go through this, I'm going to be using the PDF form as reference, but I'll tell you what you need to know when you're filling it out on Studentaid.gov. So let's get started. Remember, this is the 2026-2027 FAFSA. This is the one that opens to the general public on October 1st, 2025. So if you have a high school senior and this is your first FAFSA, this is the one you're going to need to know. All right, as we dive in here, you can see that there's a lot of stuff you just got to look at here, but you get to the basics, and I always recommend that students start first. So your child should create their own FSA ID, and they should start the FAFSA. And when they do start the FAFSA, they invite you, the parent, as a contributor. And they can do this really easy now in 2025. They just do it by email, and they send you an email, and then you can get access to the FAFSA that you fill out as the parent. And so as we walk through this, I'm going to start with the student stuff first, and then I'm going to get to the parent stuff later on in the video. So here we go. It's very simple. You start with the basics: name, social security number, email, address. Now, a lot of this will be filled in from your FSA ID. So as you already created an FSA ID, as long as that information is current, you're good to go. Then you get to the student marital status: single, married, remarried, separated, divorced, widowed. Pretty self-explanatory. If your child is married, they are an independent student, and that's important to know. If they are still single, they're likely going to be a dependent student. Then you need to choose what year of college you're in. First year, second year, future years. Are you going for a master's or doctorate program? This matters because the type of aid you can get depends on the year of school. For example, if you want federal student loans are $5,500 the first year, $6,500 the second year, $7,500 the third year and beyond. And there's different loan types for master's and graduate degrees. And then, of course, will this be their first year, or they already have a bachelor's degree? Will they be pursuing a teaching certificate after that? Then you have personal circumstances. This is things that are more unique. Is the student in the military? Were they an orphan, foster care, ward of the court? Do they not live with their parents? Are they in a guardianship? All these things make a difference to determine whether the student is dependent or an independent student. Also, there is the student homelessness question, which again determines whether they are an independent or dependent student. Do they want direct unsubsidized loans only? This is for students whose parents are refusing to provide their information, or for students whose parents did not fill out a tax return and are going to not fill out a tax return. In those cases, students can't get a lot of aid, but they can still take out a student loan. So something to think about. I don't recommend this. I recommend that parents fill out their information and finish their taxes and get it all done. If a student has children or they're married, they can answer their family size. And again, if the student has their own kids in college, they can answer number 10. Then we get to the demographic information: race and ethnicity, citizenship status, state of legal residence, parent education status, and then the high school information. You need to put your student's high school down there. You get to federal benefits received. This could impact financial aid, especially if they received Medicaid, nutrition benefits, SSI, things like that. Then we get to the tax filing status. This is a lot harder on the PDF than it is online. The new online form on Student Aid allows you to link to the IRS and automatically pull in all the tax information. So you get to skip all these questions. However, if you're filling this out by hand, you need to be very careful and make sure you're entering the correct stuff. So this is specifically if the student filed their own tax return. not if the parents claim the student. If the student filed their own tax returns, you hit yes. If they did not, you hit no. And then if the student did file their own tax returns, you have to enter all this information. And this will be automatically pulled online again, but you should at least know what it entails, right? So earned income for work is probably going to be the most common one. You're going to have tax-exempt interest income. You have IRA distributions, untaxed portion of pensions, their adjusted gross income. You got earned income tax credit, IRA contributions. And then if the student filed any of the other forms, net profit or loss from a business, foreign income, child support received, all that stuff gets pulled in from your taxes, but if not, you need to report it. Then we get to student assets. This is very important. Do not mess up the assets. This is the number one thing that we see families mess up when it comes to FAFSA, and I want you to avoid it. So the student reports the total value of their cash, checking, and savings accounts right here. It's just a lump sum. Now, a lot of questions I get are, well, they're a child. They weren't able to open a checking account or a savings account in their own name, so it's a joint with the parent. If it's the child's money, it goes right here. If it's not the child's money, it does not go right here. The other thing that goes here are UGMA accounts. So if the parent or a grandparent opened a custodial investment account with the child's name or the student's name, that's a student asset, and it goes right here. And of course, if they have a business or a farm, I really still have never seen a student own a business or a farm that has a net worth, so that would go right there. Not to say it doesn't happen, but it goes right there. So this is the student assets. You do not include things like retirement accounts. So if the student opened an IRA, you don't report the value of that IRA in the assets. That's a retirement account. You get to not include that. That's great. And then we get down to the colleges. So you want to add the federal school code for every college you are applying to. And this will send the FAFSA information to those schools so you can get a financial aid award letter. So this is where you enter all that. If you need more, you can call Federal Student Aid and add more. Most people are going to apply to 6 to 8 or so schools, and this should be plenty for them. Then, of course, you sign it. If the student is married, their spouse fills out this exact same thing, just like what we talked about. There's nothing different right there. And then we get to the parent. If the student's married, the parent doesn't get to be involved. But for most students that are single, and this is their first time going around and they're in college, the parent is the contributor. And parents, most of you are watching this because I know the stats, I know our demographics, and I've talked to many of you online. So parents, here is what you need to know when it comes to filling out the FAFSA. Just like your student, you create your own FSA ID. Some of you may have an FSA ID already because you had your own student loans. It is the same FSA ID. It's just, we call it an FSA ID. It's just your login to Studentaid.gov, right? So this is going to autofill in if that information is correct. Otherwise, you can edit it. You have your email address, your mailing address, and your marital status. Single, unmarried, and both parents living together, married, not separated, remarried, separated, divorced, widowed. You got to put it down on there. Let's talk about a couple of these because I get these questions a lot. First off is single is very straightforward, but unmarried and both parents live together. If you are unmarried and you are both living together, you still both have to be contributors. And in that case, you will each do this if you are not filing jointly. So this applies to people that are both living together and filing single tax returns, or if you are married filing separate. You both do this, and the child actually invites both parents. So just send an email, put the email address into both contributors because you are both contributors. Married and remarried, same deal. You're both putting your information in here together as a joint unit. So a lot of divorced families, maybe the parent that provides 50% or more of the support is remarried. Well, that new household now is the full contributor for the FAFSA. And then separated, divorced, widowed may or may not be married or unmarried, but you're going to put that there and you're going to file it single. Your legal residence, how many people are in your family, number of kids in college between July 1st, 2026 and June 30th, 2027. So remember, you're filling out this FAFSA for the future year. So if this is your first kid going to college, that answer might be 1. Maybe you have other kids in college. Maybe you're going to college. You never know. So that's important. If you as the parent received, or anyone in their family received any of these things, so if the kid received free or reduced price lunch, the parent, choose that. Your tax filing status. Did the parent file a tax return? The answer should hopefully always be yes. If not, there are some reasons you did not have to, but otherwise, if you're required to file a tax return and you are not or refusing to, your kid's not going to get any aid. So file a tax return. Then we're going to have all the tax return information. Again, this gets pulled automatically from the IRS. So you literally don't have to do much if you just let it all pull the information. The only time you have to do it is if you are actually doing this manually. But again, I think it's important for you as a parent to understand how this works. So it's going to have your income from work, tax exempt interest, IRA distributions, IRA rollovers, pensions, pension rollover, get to your adjusted gross income, income tax paid, earned income tax credit, IRA deductions, education tax credits that were claimed. Did you file any of the other forms? Profit or loss from a business, amount of grants and scholarships that were reported to the IRS. Because remember, scholarships can be taxable, specifically if they're used for housing and room and board, foreign earned income, child support received. This is the child support that you received in the last complete calendar year. I get this question a lot. Well, when my kid goes to college, they're not going to have any child support because they're over 18. But the year before, they did have child support. They know this. You still need to put that in there as an asset. Parent assets. Again, cash, checking, savings. This is a snapshot on the day you filed. So, you can kind of pull some levers here potentially, because if you notice what it reports, it doesn't ask you for your debts. It asks you for cash, checking, and savings accounts, net worth of investments, net worth of businesses and farms, and there's no actual debts. So let's just say you have a mortgage. You could make an extra mortgage payment and lower the amount of cash you have in your checking account that you have to report. You could make an extra payment on that student loan or that car loan. You could do all those things and get that cash value very, very low. So keep that in mind. It's an easy one to lower the amount of cash you have on hand while not doing anything crazy. Net worth of investments, including real estate. This is important, and they even put it here. You do not include your primary residence. You do not include the value of the home that the parent lives in. You also do not include things like your retirement accounts. So you don't include your Roth IRA, your 401k, your 403b, the value of your pensions. You don't include those things. You do include rental real estate, which is only the net worth of it. And it tells you net worth is the value minus any debts owed against them. So let's just say you have a rental property that you bought for $1 million and you have an $800,000 mortgage on it. $200,000 is the net worth of it potentially. And that's just in my hypothetical example, but I think you get the deal. And then finally, current net worth of businesses and farms. However, for this upcoming year, you no longer have to include the value of a small business that you own, 100 people or less. You don't have to include a family farm, that's a farm that you live on, and you don't have to include commercial fishing that's family owned. So this is only for net worth of businesses that you might be a partner in, they're not family owned, things like that. So keep that in mind. And finally, parent, you sign this thing. If you are married and you're not filing jointly, you have to do this again for the parent's partner. But if you're filing jointly, only one parent does it. And finally, you are done. So that is how you fill out the FAFSA. I know there's a lot of questions. A lot of people are scared of it. It's a lot easier, and it will take you less time than it will take you to watch this video to actually go and do it. And again, the FAFSA opens on October 1st for everybody. So make sure you're jumping in there and getting it done. I think it will be very easy to fill out. I think you will be shocked that it's a lot quicker and easier than you ever believed. I hope this helps. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment, because we always will bring you the latest on higher education news. And hopefully this helps you nail the FAFSA and feel more confident when you go through the process.